So I think anytime you have a character who thinks they're going to either manipulate or get close to and be very friendly with someone who arguably is undefeatable as it stands, you know they're not going to have a good time. But it wasn't until the whole idea that this man was so nonchalantly, like, literally wanting to marry, probably, I would argue, the most untouchable character in this show. Not because of pure strength, but because of pure lust. There's only one person who could ever touch her and not have a good chance at losing their limbs, and that is our boy Ains. That is Papa Bone Daddy. But I will, on one hand, say, I have to give this man, I think his name was Philip, the benefit of the doubt. I don't think he's gonna succeed, because we know they know his bullshit. We know he's being manipulated. But I have to hand it to the man, he does have ambitions for being, from what we can see anyway, the lowest class of, like, high nobility. When he's talking with his dad, who just seems like the most disappointed father that wished he ran off and got smokes one day and never came back, it very much was under the impression that they are poor as shit. Like, they have a single village, they divide their crops evenly, so they're not raking in the dough. But man, I was not expecting someone who, I mean, as soon as he said, like, there was someone who was backing him, I was like, okay, clearly it's gotta be something connected to our boy, or at the very least one of his subordinates or something like that. I just wasn't expecting that in the middle of her manipulating him, he would drop the bombshell that he wants to marry her. And then in return, we go from who pretty much looks like a normal hot anime character into Skeletor because she's so disgusted by what she heard, and then just to see Albedo just kind of like wipe it off. I mean, that sound when he initially touched her shoulder, what in the actual hell was that? Because for me, what, like, the sound heard, like, I thought what was going to happen was when they pulled away, his arm was frozen or something, because it sounded like an ice attack to me. And if it wasn't that, then I was expecting his arm to be cut off. But seemingly, something happened. It just seems like that something might have been reversed, or it was just such an ominous evil presence that it completely shattered the sound barrier. I mean, it would be hilarious if she actually did, like, physically wound him, but in such a quick fashion, like, reversed it. But I mean, it's hard to say. We just know touching is off the table, and that sound alone got across that you probably don't want to do it again. But then again, he then immediately is like, yeah, I'm probably going to marry her too, but the boy isn't going to learn until his head's on a spike, and even then he's probably going to be talking about some bullshit. I think what I like about this episode is it gets into all the interesting stuff that I wanted to see this season of Overlord, because I love political stuff, and I think this being a very political show about essentially conquering the world, but for different reasons. I mean, Ains himself, he's basically making things in a kingdom fashion that everyone is going to be treated equal, because he's basically trying to get back what he lost from his original party and everything like that. Of course, all of his individual people have different motives, so he has to be careful about not overstepping and maybe stomping on what they want to do. But all the things that are happening, he's setting in motion all these different characters. I mean, he has his different identities, right? I mean, the fact of the matter is, this episode is just beating it over our head that the only one strong enough to beat Ains is Ains himself. And he did the most brilliant thing early on into season 1 by creating an adventurer identity, and the fact that you have now the Supreme King over here, and it's just like, it's hilarious to see that these people who fear and know for a fact that the new person running this kingdom, we don't want to get on their bad side because I don't think anyone can defeat them. But then we'll transition and be like, yeah, but what about Momon? And just the fact that they'll go from like blushy fangirl to, I hate that bastard, why is he working with him, I hope he cuts off his head. It's great to see that he's essentially made a kingdom believe that the only person who might, in a 1 in 1,000 chance, have a chance at actually defeating their new ruler, if he does turn out to not be, at the very least, livable with, is the person who he pretends to be. So essentially, he has nothing to truly fear. So what I think sometimes those OP stories get wrong is, if you feel like the main character is so powerful that he's naturally going to win or get to his location, how is there ever a chance of threat? But the chance of threat in this show is more about the political ramifications. What different kingdoms do, what kingdoms fight who, and things like that. I think the princess has been one of the most interesting elements for me, and then to see her just on her knees thanking our girl after such an intense situation with marriage, and to see the fact that Climb himself is definitely giving me the impression that even if he doesn't suspect 100% she's an evil, crazy bitch, he definitely is suspecting and is remembering things that are definitely making him raise an eyebrow. The fact that when he was initially saved in the alley, she had that smile, that very crazy-ass smile that made, I think, everyone who's seen it shit their pants at the same time. And during, like, the first 5 minutes of this episode with a simple carriage ride, I mean, we're doing the typical, like, she's flirty, she's flustered, she's saying, I want all the attention from him, and yeah, he's embarrassed, but every time she says stuff about wanting to learn more about these talents or the orphanage and how she likes helping people, he gives off this very suspicious glare, like he's starting to finally realize, and if he does fully betray that trust, this is the one psycho bitch you probably don't want to get on their bad side outside of Ains' main crew. And I'm very excited to see what they do, because they're setting in motion all my favorite elements between seasons 2 and 3 in terms of like just the different characters and the warrior mentality and what they're going up to, because even though as it stands nothing seems to be getting in Ains' way, what they're doing a great job with is by making the politics side of this, now that we're focused just on the kingdom right now, there's so many different little elements at play and different people trying to get a slice of the pie. Some people are trying to take the whole damn pie and are gonna end up killed. But there's other characters like the princess who are doing it very smart, where the brother thinks the prince that is, thinks that he's just gonna ship her off to some nice little land and she'll leave him alone, when in fact she's manipulating him harder than ever. And it's hard to say if she is fully just working with Albedo or if she wants to try to pull the rug under her as well, but as it stands, she's being the most smart out of all the different characters that we've seen trying to get that piece of the pie. She feels like pretty normal reaction in terms of knowing not to overstep, and if you do have more cards to play, not playing them too soon. That's what I love about this, and just like the simpler moments, because you don't get to see it too often. Like when a kingdom takes over another kingdom, or a group of people take over a kingdom, it's pretty much a natural transition for a lot of diplomacy. But when you have Ains sending in the cavalry, and they don't even have names because they are just monsters, but now he's trying to create a kingdom of monsters and humans and demi-humans, whatever it is. It's pretty fantastic to have that kind of comedic relief that's not intentionally funny because they're trying to crack a joke, but it's such an awkward conversation that you're glad you're not the one dealing with it. Like the fact of like, hey, I'm so-and-so. Wow, I actually don't have a name. You can call me this. It's kind of hilarious. And I think it's even more frightening when you put it like yourself in their shoes. They're already dealing with someone who controls monsters, and now those monsters literally don't have names. Like, I mean, if that boy popped up and said his name was Fred, it'd feel like a little more like, okay, I mean, they look like monsters, but at the very least, we can navigate around them because they're humans, or they act like us, so we can out-manipulate them. No, we're dealing with beasts that can talk like us, but clearly, this man is so powerful, we're shit out of luck. And that's what I love about Overlord. It's such a good episode, great setup, and the setup in Overlord is more exciting than a lot of action stuff that you see in so many other anime. And when we do get into the action of Overlord, it is absolutely explosive. I'm very excited for more of the new opening. One of my personal favorites that Overlord has shown us today. I really think it's just a mood. It's a bop. It's a jam. I'm so excited to see where the music in this season will take us, and of course the stories and characters as well. But thoughts down below. What do you think, and what do you hope to see in next week's episode? Let me know. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. Until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.